Hello, me lovelies. Well, this video is going to be an invitation to Jeremy Kauffman, the CEO of Odysee.com, a platform that's more or less a rival to YouTube, a bit like BitChute, to come on to my channel and explain just what he allows to go on to his platform, because I've looked into Odysee and I've looked into aspects of it, the mission statements and all this, and the staff members, and I'm shocked by what he allows or what they allow to go up there. And what I'm referring to is people who followed me will know about an American YouTuber who his accounts were terminated for vicious cyberbullying and hate speech towards me because I dared to be born intersex. How that is my conscious decision, I don't know. But people who've heard him have heard the constant hate speech, and he was gathering around him and creating an anti-LGBTQI um, channel. Trying to think of the word then, channel. And that's why YouTube terminated his accounts because of that. Because because it wasn't just me. It was he was picking on a gay YouTuber, and of course he was picking on hounding Sean Atwood, well beyond what was reasonable. Totally hounding him, and of course anyone that had anything to do with Sean was getting hounded as well, which is cyberbullying. It's classic cyberbullying. Well, of course, this YouTuber went to Odysee and has been singing its praises that he can say what he wants, he can do what he wants. But actually, when you look at the rules of Odysee, that's not true. You can't go breaching copyright or breaching laws. Users on there have to abide by the laws of wherever they are. They can't suddenly start breaking the law. Now what I'll do, I'll just go through because I've got it up here. I can't memorize all this. But the concept of it sounds okay as long as those rules are enforced, but they're not enforced, so it doesn't. And this is, I'll get to why and what I want to ask Mr. Kauffman. But I'll go through it. Now, the approach to content moderation. Now what this more or less goes on, I won't read the whole lot of it, but it goes on about something called library. I don't know, LBRY. I'm not technical like that, but library is something like, I don't know, a server or something. Now, I'll just read interesting parts. Kauffman has described YouTube's content moderation standards as far too strict, while Odysee has stated that it has a welcoming stance to creators of all beliefs and persuasions. Well, yeah, but lots of people do say, and I've said it, that sometimes YouTube can go well too far, but it's whether it's an algorithm that's doing it or a human being, but it can go too far. I've seen things that I've thought, what, are you kidding me? That YouTube have censored. Now, it goes on about this library thing. When it comes to prohibited content, anything that's illegal under US law, because it's in the US, I can't remember where it was, but it's somewhere in the US. Spam, pornographic material, content that incites violence, content that promotes terrorism, animal abuse, torture videos, and copyright infringement materials are all expressly prohibited. Well, that's not actually true. He may be saying they're prohibited, but does he act on it? Or when you report them, do they act on it? I can assure you they don't. And it says here, there are also a couple of grey areas in Odysee's guidelines. Now that's odd, that grey areas in Odyssee's guidelines. Well, you're making the guidelines up. You're the one that owns the platform. You're the one that will be earning any revenue from it. So there shouldn't be grey areas, or you should have a legal team ensuring that there aren't grey areas. content that incites hatred towards a particular group and excessive bullying of people who aren't well known within the public sphere are both banned. Really? Well, I'd like Jeremy Kauffman to come on here and explain this American podcaster's videos. And on there, he's coming out with, it's horrendous. It's just horrendous. And he's put all the old ones that he was banned, terminated from YouTube. Here are hate speech and bullying are vague and subjective terms that have both been used to justify increased levels of censorship on YouTube in recent years. Yeah, you can't say that. I've said that myself. It gets vague, you know, what is defined as being hate speech. Bullying, I suppose you could say, yeah, but there's a difference. I mean, I'm sorry, there's a big difference between someone absolutely slating you and keeping on picking on you using hate terms, which are obvious hate terms. So I'm not going to repeat them here. I'll say them in private to Jeremy Kauffman and see if he thinks that that's hate speech and bullying. But there's differences. You can work it out for yourself what is really excessive and you know what I'm trying to say, don't you? You can tell the difference. But so far, Odysee hasn't used these terms to implement mass censorship, and many popular creators that have been banned by YouTube for hate speech are Odysee creators. Now that's where he's running into a real problem here. He's boasting, and I'll get to this later, because when I tell you the diversity of the people he has working for him, I'm shocked by that. So what he's saying is it's a good place. It's an invitation for people who are giving out hate speech, right? So if you go on there and you're giving out, just go there. Why you'd want to create something like that in the first place, I don't know. Also, because Odysee is open sourced and decentralized, Odysee users aren't locked into the ecosystem in the same way they are with closed source centralized video sharing platforms such as YouTube. If the police or the lawyers come knocking at you, Mr. Kauffman's door, then this will happen. If Odysee ever does start to implement more aggressive censorship measures under these rules, anyone in the community can take the code and create a client that doesn't censor us broadly. Now, this is where he's saying, well, we're going to allow this, but we're going to get stronger. Basically, if someone gets a legal team on some more, the police start knocking at the door. Now, it goes on about the features of it, how you browse and all this. But there was another bit I saw just going on and on and on and on about how you actually use it. And it's actually not all that easy to use, I've discovered. Actually, have I done it all? Actually, I think I got to it. I thought there was another bit about hate speech and all this. Now, this account that I was talking about that was terminated off YouTube has been reported again and again for violations of hate speech and cyberbullying. And Odysee have done nothing, absolutely nothing. But do you remember I said about the diverse makeup of his staff that work for Odysee? Well, you'd be shocked. There's a wide variety of people who will know what it is to have hate speech flung at them. They should know, and yet they're working for a platform that does that. But what I'd like Mr. Kauffman to do, come onto my YouTube channel and explain why I have to endure and other people have to endure constant bullying, cyberbullying, hate speech going after us on your podcast, on your platform that you are responsible for legally. And I tell you this, people, see, he's sitting pretty now thinking, oh, well, look at this, I can get away with this. No, things are changing, and especially in the UK, the law's changing. America will eventually start changing. You know, freedom of speech, and I've said this again and again and again, freedom of speech is not the same as committing a crime like hate speech, vicious bullying. We're not talking about the odd little insult. You listen to this American podcaster, he goes on and on and on, spewing out hate speech. So I'd like Mr. Kauffman to come on here and explain himself, because I think he should step up to the mark and say, why do you want to provide this? Why do you want to give a platform to people that are making other people's life an absolute misery? And people do kill themselves over cyberbullying. And if he'd like to explain what he'd do, and this is the important thing, if his staff members were hit with hate speech, would he like someone going onto his platform giving out hate speech about his staff members? We'll ask him that as well. So come on, Mr. Kauffman, come on to my YouTube and we'll talk about this, and you explain your rationale and reasoning for wanting to do that. I mean, I can understand when there's real censorship going on, where yet there are things that YouTube does lock down on that people want to talk about in the comment, which does seem very, very unfair. But what you've set up and what you're saying in that mission statement is not saying that you're for freedom of speech. What you're saying is you're for hate speech and criminality, which it is, and cyberbullying. That's what it sounds like you're saying to me. So I'd be interested to talk to you. So I'll leave it at that, my lovelies. Bye bye for now.